Hi guys! A couple weeks ago I realized that my string of hearts plant had grown all the way down to the floor, and it was behind all of these plants all the way down and receiving no light at the end. So that is why all of those end pieces, which I've looped up, I looped it up and over the hook, which is kind of a nice look. But that's why all those leaves are so small. They were receiving little to no light. It is such a beautiful plant. And although it does look like it has variegated leaves, this is the regular string of hearts. But guys, it is time to take cuttings and make the plant fuller and not so long and spindly. And I'm going to do that today. I think this is a good time. Right as we're moving into spring and the days are getting longer, I think this is a really good time to take cuttings. And let's go ahead and get started. I've decided to go ahead and soak the vines on the plant in a little bit of water. I just don't know how well the really long vines, if the moisture is going to get all the way to the end, I think this might speed up the process. And when I take cuttings, I want to make sure that they're fully hydrated. So I'm going to let that sit for about an hour and then come back, and hopefully I'll be working with a nicely hydrated plant. Okay, I have stretched it out on my patio table where I like to do all of my repottings, and I can't believe it. I think this table is at least 6 feet long, and it just keeps going and going and going, and then it falls over the edge for another foot or so. So I think I misspoke when I said it was about 4 feet long. It's at least 6 feet long. Look at that, guys. So obviously it's time to give it a little bit of attention. Look how beautiful it is in the sunlight. I hope you can see how pretty those leaves are. And the underside is purple. And we are going to repot this up and take a series of cuttings and put them all in the same pot, and I should have a nice full plant that will then turn around and grow another 7 feet. So now that the plant is all rehydrated, I've taken it out of the pot, and I see here that I have quite a small pot. So I think I'm just going to bump it up a tiny bit. Now obviously this plant doesn't need a lot of soil to do really well. It grew to be 7 feet long just with a little bit of soil. So it's really important that it is in a well-draining mix. Now this is just a cup I got at the dollar store. We've been using it. I have a stack of these. And I went ahead and I put lots of drainage holes in there. And I used a hot skewer to poke holes. Some people might use a soldering iron if they have it, but I've put holes around the side and holes on the bottom. These plants appreciate a really well-draining mix and a pot with good drainage. So I'm just going to be able to tuck that in there, and I'm going to go ahead and get started taking my cuttings. Now let me show you what I have as far as the soil mix. I'm going to go ahead, because it does like a well-draining mix, and use Miracle Grow cactus, palm, and citrus potting mix. But in addition to using that, I have also added a little bit of my own perlite and a bit of sand as well. I have found when rooting plants, indoor or outdoor plants, that they appreciate having sand in the mix. And I think sand is a really easy medium for them to grow into. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that up a bit. The other thing that I am going to do is use the soil from the pot. Now I think that when you transplant a plant, using some of the same soil is important, even if you think that soil is spent. As long as it doesn't have a bug problem, I think it's important to use it because it is used to this soil culture, and I think that it helps reduce any shock it might go through when you put it in its new setup. So let's go ahead. I'm going to cut it quite short, and I'm going to take several lengths of cuttings. And guys, look how pretty this plant is. It's just beautiful. And there's quite a bit of plant material here. So this is going to be exciting. It's going to turn into a very thick pot, assuming I do everything well. And I'm just going to go ahead here and take the first cutting pretty high. And I will go ahead and do this transfer now. I'm trying to use this not to make a mess, but I think it might be impeding your vision. So let me go ahead and take out some of this soil. And I have a variety of things here. I can use this huge thing here. Oh, I see I've even put like a little plant food spike in here. Maybe I'll try to incorporate that back in. But I'm going to go ahead and break this down into the cup. And then I will add a whole bunch of new soil. There's quite a nice root ball here. That's pretty decent, I would say. So I'm just going to put that aside. And this can go right on top, and I can just tuck the cuttings in around the edges. So let me go ahead and put some soil in here from my really well draining mix. The other thing that I'm going to add is some worm castings. And as I redo some of my plants and do some pottings, I'm going to be adding that in the mix. I was watching a YouTuber that's been on YouTube for years, and she has a YouTube channel called Joy Us Garden, and every time she pots anything up, she has worm castings. And I've never seen such healthy plants. They're really, really something. So I'm going to try to do that as well. Let me just put a teaspoon of that in it. You don't want to overdo the fertilizer on indoor plants, but I think that'll be overall good for the plants. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing it in really well, so nothing is going to get burned. And I just put a heaping tablespoon in there, guys. We'll see how the plant likes it. Now I'm just going to put this root ball on top, and I can tuck in all of my cuttings around it. I think I need to get rid of a little bit more around the edges. And I'm also going to put that plant spike in that towards the bottom that hasn't broken down yet. So this plant should actually have quite a bit of food. And I think I'm going to take some of this out. There we go. Alright, now as you can see, that looks terrible. Look how terrible that looks. But we are going to start taking the cuttings. And I have kept the top part at this end, and it's really important that you keep this facing the right way, so you end up taking putting in the cuttings the right way. So let's put in a whole bunch here. I'm going to make about 7-inch cuttings here and just tuck them along the side. Now I don't go to the trouble of pulling off all the leaves. They're going to root just fine. Larger leaves, it might be necessary. And also water propagation, you definitely should remove the leaves. But these are small leaves, and I think they'll be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here, 6 or 7 inches worth, and just tuck them in along the side. There we go. It's going to be a really full looking plant, guys. And I'm going to take the best cuttings for this one. Now, when you take a cutting, it's going to start growing towards the ends. So you don't want it to be too long. You want it to start growing higher up. That's why I've chosen this particular length. I may just put the extras in water and see, because all of these cuttings are really filling up fast. And I think this is going to be a really nice plant now that I have taken the time to restart it, so to speak, thickening up my string of hearts plant just by going through this whole process. And I've seen some people trying to get these, they do tangle up with each other, but you know, nobody's out there in nature untangling vining plants. It doesn't hurt the plant, and I think it could actually hurt the plant if you rip the stems or the leaves in the process. So, looks like I'm going to get everything in here, guys. I'm making it really thick, but I have basically just put it around the edge of the plant. And now I'm going to go ahead, I think I'm going to put a little bit more of the worm castings because that'll be good. This plant hasn't been fertilized in a while, and as you could see, that other one was quite dry, that plant stick. It's better than doing nothing though. Alright, so I'm going to add some of this in around the edge where I think it'll go down. Now, when I go ahead and water this, it's all going to settle in nicely. And I am going to just sort of try to tap in that soil. Another thing you can do to tap soil in is just tap on this, and gravity will just sort of fill in those gaps. I'm really liking how this looks. So I'm just trying to get that soil down. Like I said, ultimately it'll be the water that fills in those gaps. Guys, that is looking so much better than a 7-foot scraggly mess. And I'll go ahead and put it back in my hanging container. And since it did so well in that spot, I think that's where it's going to stay. It is ready to go back into the warm window. And guys, I'll keep you posted on it. Look how much better that looks. Can you see how much fuller that looks now? It's going to be beautiful. And I think those vines are going to be a lot healthier. And there it is, back in its spot, which it enjoyed so much. And I think it is looking a lot better. And it couldn't be any easier. Just root it right down into the soil, fill out your own plant, and I would say that's a big improvement. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you're having fun with your plants. I'll see you next time.